So I have done both the 23-1 intermittent fasting, and I've done the 17-6, or sometimes I do 16-8, all depending on my day. So the great thing about intermittent fasting is you can change it up, change the schedule to what suits you best. So it's not something that is set in stone where you have to stick to it. You can change it to whatever you like it to be to accommodate your daily schedule. So if I'm really busy, I might switch it up to whatever time, like 16, maybe 16-8, or I normally go between 16-8 and 17-6. So 17-6 is just something that I do every single day. And but you can switch it out. But what I wanted to do, an experiment last summer where I wanted to see the difference between what I do normally, which was the 17-6. I wanted to switch it up to see how the 23-1 would work. So the 23-1, what it is initially, it's you fast for 23 hours and then you feast or you eat between a 1 hour period. But it's not really like you're not restricting calories. For example, if you're eating 1,200 calories a day, which is I think is the minimum, you can divide like two big meals between a half an hour period. So that's basically what I would do. And during that time, I wouldn't have any juice. Like I would have like rice and beans and avocado. I would have really rich, um, caloric dense foods. And yeah, so I would make sure that I get in 1,200 calories minimum between that hour. And what I can tell you is, and what I did also was, I did my cardio in the morning. So I would go to the belt line and I would run for like 30 minutes. And in the evening time, even though I have a gym membership, but I wanted to try this journey, just experiment just to see what would happen and how my body would change. And what I noticed was I would do weight training like maybe about 15 minutes, typical like regular weight training like squats, jump squats, do jump rope, do push up, do sit ups, do planks in just like 15 to 20 minutes max. And what I can tell you is the muscle density is bizarre. Like you cut fat like so fast when you do that method of intermittent fasting. But it's not something that I see myself doing for a long time, just because I find that my brain slowed down, like how I process information slowed down. Like everything was just in slow motion. The way that I talked was slower. I was so calm. It was crazy. But if you can look into it and actually do some more research to figure out the benefits of it, but I think it's very beneficial. And there was so much great benefit. Like I had so much energy. I didn't feel hungry, and it was something that I got to look forward to. Was planning my meals throughout the day, and as well, I did so much work. So, for example, if I had an assignment or if I had a project to be done, I was more productive. I wasn't thinking about food the entire day. So I got to get my work done. I've never been so productive in my life. Like when I intermittent fast, when I did 23-1, even the 17-6 that I do right now, I I find that my days are so much more productive, and I'm not constantly thinking about breakfast and what my next meal is. And it also gives me time to prepare and plan my meals so that I don't fall for something that is not healthy and stuff like that. But I would recommend that everyone at least try, if they cannot do 23-1, I would say do 16-8, like maybe finish dinner at like 7 or something like that, and then start eating again the next day, at 12 or whatever to 7 or whatever. I'm not even sure if that's a proper calculation. I'm not great at math. But do what works for you, but try to get like 16 hours fasted. And what I notice is that when you intermittent fast and you do like 16/8 or 17/6 or whatever, you can make it work for you. So you can always switch the schedule around to what works for you. And you would notice that people would start telling you, do it for like a month, and then you're going to see people start telling you that for some reason you look younger. That was the first thing that people said to me when I started experimenting. A lot of times when I experiment, I don't tell anyone. Maybe like my husband, that only one that would know. But I wait to see what people would say based on my experiments. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is working and this isn't working, based on how people react to what I'm doing internally that no one knows about. So again, I really do think intermittent fasting, and I sometimes when I juice fast, I incorporate just intermittent fasting, and the results is even more beneficial, and there is so much more great benefit. It's like extended benefit when you incorporate both of them. And that's why in my ebooks or my challenges, I recommend starting your juices later compared to earlier. And when I did the lifestyle challenge, which I removed from my website, but it was a smoothie challenge. And what I did with a lot of my friends was I had them in a group that I was coaching. And one of the hardest things that they had to adjust to was drinking their smoothies later on in the day, because they were used to getting up in the morning and having breakfast. But once they got used to pushing it back, they realized they got so much more done in the morning. They had their workouts done in the morning, and it was something that, oh, wow, I got my workout out of the way. Now I can have my smoothie or my juice or whatever it is. And they realized, oh, wow, I have accomplished so much when I didn't have to think about food. I didn't have to think about what am I going to eat. And when they do eat, they end up making a more conscious decision as to what they put in their bodies. So that's like one of the things that I really love experimenting with, intermittent fasting and juicing. It's one of the two things that I really love. And it's something that once you start talking to me about intermittent fasting, I don't stop. But another thing is a lot of people, again, same with juicing. I find that a lot of people have a lot of negative, I guess, outputs or opinions about these two topics, just because it's something that is not, I guess, conventional. I remember when I first embarked on intermittent fasting, I didn't see any information when it came to intermittent fasting in women. So when I first started to look into it, it was mostly men bodybuilders they were incorporating it in order for them to increase their muscle mass when they had to go into some kind of tournament or anything like that in regards to bodybuilding. And what I found that they were training smarter. So they were pushing their breakfast back, and they were, not that I recommend this, but they were having pizza, they were eating burgers, they were eating all of that, but they were able to maintain a great physique and able to compete. And I'm like, can this work for women? Let me try this and see how it works. Let me find some research on it. And when I tried to find some research on it, I couldn't find anything. Like, I really couldn't find anything in regards to intermittent fasting in women. And I'm like, okay, let me try it. Like I do with everything else, with juicing, with everything. I experiment. Like, one of the things that I love to do, I love to take risks. So I went on and I'm like, I'm going to do this. And one of the things that I love doing is documenting everything. So I have like boxes of journals from like when I started juicing, when I started incorporating intermittent fasting, my weight, what has changed. And what I noticed was, yeah, looking back at journals and stuff like that, I can see the difference between when you eat like a normal way and when you eat an intermittent fasting way. And what you would notice with intermittent fasting is that most of the time that you're fasting, you're asleep anyway. So, with that being said, it's not really a lifestyle that you cannot incorporate. It's You have no excuses not to do it. It's so simple and it's free. And I remember my husband and I were having a discussion because we always have like these long talks about health and nutrition. And he always wants to record me talking about nutrition because I get really passionate about it. And one of the things that I was telling him is that he's like, if intermittent fasting was so great, how come a lot of people are not doing it? I said, because big marketing, not big marketing, but big corporations, they cannot benefit from it. And I'm sure if they can figure out a way to gain capital or gain revenue from it, there would be a way for them to do that. But it's a lifestyle that is free and you can incorporate it anywhere in your life, anywhere. And you can travel, you can do whatever, and you can always make it a part of your life. So I said, if I'm like, a lot of the time, the food industry is not here to help us to be healthy. And I say to him, I'm like, I've done so much research where, how the US is the biggest consumption of dairy products, but also the largest country with the highest rate of people with osteoporosis. And, so I am like, a lot of times when people are marketed stuff, it's based on big corporation like the food industry paying marketers to convince us that this product is good for us. And me coming from marketing, like I already know that stuff. So again, like even with my slogan, changing the perception of food, it's also changing the perception of how you consume food and what you consume as food. So I wanted to kind of record this because one of the things that I hate doing is blogging because I I have like the worst sentence structure ever, and I don't have an editor, and I just rather just tell you what goes through my mind than to write it because it makes more sense maybe this way than if I was to write it down. So I got a lot of question on this. I've had this intermittent fasting blog as a draft for years now, but I've never published it because I just feel like it's so much to go into, and I also want people to do their own research to figure out what works for them best, opposed to me telling you what I think you should do. And I think that, and with that being said, I do think that you should at least try for a month to incorporate intermittent fasting, incorporate including more juices in your life, or if you don't like juices, incorporate more smoothies in your life, and great things will happen. You would notice that you would reverse aging, you know, your blood sugar, if you're suffering from diabetes, you might help reverse diabetes. There's a lot of positive things including juices in your life and also including intermittent fasting in your life. So yes, so this is what I had to say.